us back with another video. Today we have longest player suspensions in NBA history. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Road to 200 subscribers. Let's get right into it.
The National Basketball Association is one of the most popular leagues in the world, and its stars are globally popular. To make the league more marketable and make the most dollars, the NBA has a strict policy dealing with problems that would impact the popularity of the game.
Right.
However, there were instances where the NBA players didn't abide by the rules,
we're gonna see
and they are the
Artest
topic
in
of
here.
this video, as we're going to reveal which are the longest NBA suspensions of all time.
Malice in the Palace.
Performance-enhancing drug suspensions. 25 games, 4 players. In a game based on athleticism, jumping ability, and endurance, there have been rare cases of steroid use. Of course,
he's showing a lot of LeBron, so is he trying to say he think LeBron's on steroids?
NBA has a very light policy towards checking for steroids, and they have only started testing for certain drugs, such as HGH, just a couple of years ago. We're not making any accusations or assumptions, we're just saying it. Still, despite such light testing, Tariq was one of the first players in the modern era that failed a drug test due to performance-enhancing drugs. He got tested for methanol and got suspended for 20 games. Before the Turk failed his drug test, prior anti-drug suspensions were usually reserved for cocaine and marijuana. After him, Nick Calathis also got 20 games for tamoxifen, which he said he used to prevent hair loss. If we look at Nick's hairline, we can totally understand and approve the use of the drug. Joakim Noah got the same suspension a couple of years later, while he was a member of the Knicks, where he got $18 million per year for not playing. In Noah's words, New York was too lit for him, and he was too lit for New York. We can say that we understand why he failed a drug test as well. Since then, the league extended a suspension for PED use from 20 to 25 games, and both DeAndre Ayton and John Collins served a 25-game suspension for failed drug tests in the current 19-20 NBA season. Ayton used a prohibited diuretic, while Collins got the penalty for a growth hormone stimulant. Jody Meeks and Wilson Chandler both received the same suspension for similar violations in 2018 and 2019.
What happened to Jody
mentioned
Meeks
before,
anyway, man?
the NBA had extremely light drug testing, and it's not surprising that the majority of...
And then, I remember it was a player that was supposed to take a drug test. I don't know if it was just I think it was a role player at that. He was supposed to take a drug test, but his girl took it for him, and came to find out she was pregnant, so the results came back as pregnant.
The PED suspensions were handed in the last couple of years. The good old days when Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes were only tested once a year and could smoke weed before every game are now over. Kermit Washington, one-punch KO, 26-game suspension.
That only got him 26 games? Tough.
If Kermit Washington wasn't a basketball player, he could have made a career in boxing. He proved this on the night of December 9th, 1977, when a fight broke out between him and the Rockets' Kevin Cunnard. Those two got tangled up and exchanged punches in the middle of the court, and that wouldn't have been so bad if it ended there. Once the original fight began, several other players rushed over to intervene, one of them being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't blame him technically for what he did though, cause you just see somebody from the opposite team running at you. You don't know what he gonna do. So it's just he came in, boop, and he, prayers up. There was prayers up for the dude, but are you gonna tell me that he was wrong? Are you really gonna tell me that he was wrong?
Of Washington, Rudy Tomjanovich, a 29-year-old all-star forward for the Rockets, was also running towards the players gathered around Washington and Cunnard.
You don't know what he's
in
gonna
an attempt
do.
to break up the fight, just like Jabbar. Kermit saw Tomjanovich running towards him, and thinking that Rudy intended to fight him, he struck first. It was a devastating blow to the head from a 6'8", 240-pound forward.
He got lucky.
The impact was doubled because Tomjanovich ran full speed into the punch. He fell down, and a puddle of blood began spreading on the court, revealing the severity of the situation.
He was lucky that that's all that happened that night, bro. Ooh.
Jabbar later described the sound of the punch similar to a watermelon falling onto the concrete. Tomjanovich was able to walk around after the punch and even confronted Washington verbally after the game before he got sent to the hospital by team officials. And when he got there, he heard an ugly truth. His nose and jaw were broken, and his face was fractured about 1/3 of an inch away from his skull. resulting in spinal fluid leaking into his skull capsule.
But, like, is he straight, though? Like, did he went on to have a good career after this, right? I never looked that much into it. I hope his career was still good after.
He was lucky to be walking and lucky to be alive. It took him 5 months to get back to the court, but he made a full recovery. On the other hand, Washington served a 26-game suspension.
And not only did that man got death threats, all that stuff for the rest of his career because of this.
Whew. Which was the longest suspension after an in-game incident at the time. Guns N' Roses. Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton, total of 88 games. Bang bang, he shot me down. Bang bang. Unlike the other suspensions on this list, the third biggest suspension of all time wasn't at all related to basketball. Gilbert Arenas was among many NBA players who like to gamble on planes, specifically a card game called Boo-Ray. It's the most popular card game amongst NBA players to this day, and a game that caused thousands of dollars, Rolexes, and Rolls Royces exchange owners, all during a course of an NBA team flight. Gilbert Arenas got suspended 50 games for carrying 4 guns into the NBA locker room, as a part of a calling your bluff move to Javaris Crittenton. A couple of days earlier, Crittenton threatened to shoot Arenas over a game of Boo-Ray, and a good teammate that he was, Arenas brought 4 guns to Crittenton so he could, in fact, shoot him. It was all a big joke to Arenas, but Crittenton had a loaded gun of his own in the locker room, and suddenly, the situation wasn't as funny as it seemed at first. Other players scattered this gun drawing scene, and the word got out that there were guns in the NBA locker room, which was a big no-no in the eyes of holier-than-thou NBA that David Stern was trying to create and portray.
R.I.P. David Stern.
He suspended both Arenas and Crittenton till the end of the season. Arenas later appealed and managed to reduce the suspension to 50 games. Crittenton's suspension ended up at 38 games, as the Wizards released him following the suspension.
Yeah, Crittenton never
played a minute in the NBA again. Latrell Sprewell choking incident, 68 games.
And then allegedly, they saying PJ Carlesimo told him to pass better. I'm like, I believe there has to be more to it to this story than make better passes, because it's like, why would you choke your coach out for telling you to make better passes? If you feel like you're making bad passes, do better.
Latrell Sprewell was one of the most physically gifted NBA players of the 90s.
But nobody gonna say.
And NBA fans remember him for being a defensive ace that brought the New York Knicks on the brink of a title in 1999. However, he is also known for some other reasons.
I think he turned down a $30 million contract because he said it wasn't enough to feed his family, that too.
Most notably for turning down a $21 million 3-year contract extension with the explanation that his kids have to eat. And that's not the type of money that will do the trick. The other thing Sprewell is famous for,
how many kids you got and how much you
68
need?
games. It all happened in 1997, while Sprewell was a member of the Golden State Warriors, a team that drafted him and saw him become a 3-time All-Star and a first-team All-NBA member in 1994. He was undoubtedly the star of the team, and when coach PJ Carlesimo asked him to pass the ball better during practice, Sprewell was in no mood and brushed him off. Carlesimo continued with criticism and approached his player, and then something in Sprewell snapped, and he went mad. He threatened to kill Carlesimo, and would maybe succeed in doing so if there weren't other people around. Sprewell put his hands onto the coach's neck and choked him for about 10 seconds, and dragged him over the court like a ragdoll before others thankfully intervened. The reporters who cover the team asked Carlesimo after practice about the apparent marks on his neck, to which he replied, no comment. The NBA sniffed out the truth about the incident, and Latrell was subsequently suspended for 82 games.
He wasn't going to tell either, so it's like he was either too afraid or Sprewell was just that good. I'm thinking he was afraid.
Games without pay, which later got reduced to 68. He was never the same player after that. Malice at the Palace.
Yep,
3 players, 131 games total suspensions. Before Ron Artest changed his name to Meta World Peace, he was anything but
What is he now,
World
like,
Peace.
Meta World?
As soon as he got to the league, Artest established himself as a physical player with a short temper, and he was a prototype of a 90s style of basketball. No backing down, competitive, physical and sometimes violent. In 2004, Artest won the Defensive Player of the Year award. However, his Indiana Pacers fell in Eastern Conference Finals for the later champions Detroit Pistons. When the two teams met again next season, it was a chance for Indiana to get their revenge.
This could have been avoided. Like, they was up by 13. Why was the starters even still out there at that point? And why is they still, like hard fouling and playing hard? The game's over.
The game was circled on their calendars, and they played fantastic, with Artest leading the way to a 15-point lead with less than 1 minute left on the clock. When Detroit's Ben Wallace attempted to score near the basket in what should have been one of the final possessions, Artest fouled him extra hard and pushed to the ground. Wallace retaliated, and a scuffle ensued with all the players trying to break up a fight between them. It wasn't looking good, but these pushing and shoving matches happen from time to time.
Right, it
and
happens.
were soon over without much consequence. But not on this occasion. While Artest was trying to calm himself down, he laid down on the scorer's table. Still infuriated, Wallace threw a cup at Artest from a distance, which served as an example for Pistons fans who started throwing stuff at Artest as well. One fan, John Green, was really accurate with his Diet Coke that night. He threw a cup at Artest, which hit him right in the chest, and Artest completely lost his mind and went to the stands to get his revenge. Soon enough, Steven Jackson and Jermaine O'Neal were in the stands as well, trying to help out Artest. What was supposed to be a minor skirmish between two hothead NBA players ended up being a complete scandal, with 3 NBA players fighting fans in the stands. When he got back on the court, another fan confronted Artest, and Ron punched him before ultimately being escorted from the arena, with many cups, chairs, and multiple other objects thrown at him and other Pacers players. It was one of the ugliest scenes in basketball history, and the game that produced the biggest suspension in league history. Artest got suspended for 86 games, Jackson got 30, and O'Neal 25, which later got reduced to 15. They cumulatively lost over $11 million in salary. And to this day, this remains the ugliest on-court incident ever in the NBA, in a night that will forever be called Malice at the Palace.
Right.
Banned players.
Yeah, bans are usually
Other than
2
suspensions, there have also been players who served
Mayo
multi-year bans from the league
Birdman
and had to be reinstated in order to play again. Tariq Evans is the most recent example.
Tariq Evans, I forgot about him.
He got a 2-year ban on May 17, 2019. He was banned for violating the league's anti-drug policy regarding drug abuse, and will be eligible to apply for reinstatement in 2021. O.J. Mayo got the exact same penalty back in 2016. Mayo was one of the best players of his generation.
Yeah, he
got drafted by the Timberwolves with the 3rd pick in the 2008 NBA draft. He did have a promising start to his career, averaging 18.5 points and establishing himself as a great three-point shooter. Unfortunately, his rookie year was also his best year, and even though he was a serviceable player, he never fulfilled the potential that got him picked so high in the draft. And just when the NBA was in the middle of a three-point revolution, which would greatly serve Mayo's skills and the prime of his physical abilities, he also got suspended by the league for drug abuse. He was eligible to apply for reinstatement in 2018, but never did. Chris Anderson, aka Birdman, got the same penalty in 2006, and was reinstated in 2008, and later helped Miami Heat win a championship in 2013. Other than Birdman, Mayo, and Evans, 6 more players received multi-year bans from the league for drug abuse, which are the longest suspensions ever handed by the NBA.
Yo, W video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Roll to 200 subscribers. Shout out to Nonstop Sports, and we out. Peace.